I offered to let my mom live with me, under the exact same terms I lived with her as a teen. I don't know why in God's good name my mom thought I would be the one to come too. We don't get along. I went to live with Dad at 16 because she told me she hated me and kicked me out. My older brother, the golden child, I know for a fact has a spare bedroom she could sleep in now that she's losing the house. My mom's situation is entirely her own fault as well, which makes this all the more annoying. She and my stepdad bought a 7-bedroom house 10 years ago, right after she left her job of 20 years to work at some stupid startup that was out of business only 3 years later. My stepdad spent the last years of his miserable life bedbound because he ignored every doctor telling him to stop shoving his face full of food every waking moment of the day. So, he passed away 500 pounds and in misery. I was more than fine with this, by the way. Well, when he passed early this year, it pretty much drained the last of the money my dummy of a mother had remaining, and now the bank's taking the house back. So, she shows up at my door for some reason, after mistreating me since I was a kid, and ignoring me unless she wanted something since she married that thankfully dead land whale. She had the nerve to ask to live with me. It's only me and my husband in our 2-bedroom house, sure, but that spare bedroom is his office, the basement's my art studio, and the couch in front of the fireplace is for our lovely cats. There is no room for the wicked hag anywhere in this house, but I knew this opportunity would never come again. So I told her she could live with us, if, and only if she decided to follow the house rules. All electronics were to be turned off by 6 p.m. If she was caught with any after that, they would be taken away and sold at the next yard sale. Bedtime was 7:30. If I caught her up, I would take away all of her clothing for the week. She may only shower for 5 minutes, once every 3 days. All chores must be done the moment she wakes up. If I roll out of bed and they are not, she will not be getting meals for the day. She must make sure she is alert at all times. If I and hubby need something done, it is to be done at that moment, or else she will lose her bedding privileges for the night. She will be in charge of cooking one meal each day, that I choose. If it is not made to my liking, she will not be allowed to join us, and instead will eat the cheapest frozen meal available. I will be reading all her mail, text messages, and emails. I will give her the ones I deem acceptable communication under my roof. Her car will be my own personal travel car. She will also drive me wherever I want. She will still have to pay for gas. And, last but not least, if at any point she displeases me, I will be calling my brother up to pick her up from a nearby gas station. I will get to choose what she takes to put in a torn-up backpack before dropping her off without looking back. She called me a monster, told me these conditions were inhuman, and asked if I was insane. These were the exact conditions I lived under for years as a teenager, the exact conditions she tormented me with for years until she finally let me go live with the one parent that loved me, and these would be the conditions she would suffer under if she dared to ask me to home her worthless, joy-sucking soul. I don't know where she went after she stormed out of my house. My brother called me and told me I have the biggest balls in the family for the stunt I pulled. From the sounds of it though, none of the spawn want the brood mother to live with them. I hope she finds a nice park bench to stay on. My doctor shamed me in front of my mom. So I, female 23, come from a very controlling family, and the only time I've ever been able to escape was when I did my degrees abroad. While I was there, I had a partner, and when I finished with my degree, I returned to my home country and we broke up. Other than him, I have not been sexually active with anyone else. For the last year, I've been having UTIs, urinary tract infections, of varying severity over 15 times. Each time I go to the doctors, I get prescribed weak antibiotics, but within a week, the UTI comes back, even if I'm not sexually active. I searched for others with this experience, and came across many people who suggested I get tested for ureaplasma, an STI. My mom schedules a doctor's appointment for me, and I don't know why, but the doctor asked my mom to come into the doctor's room too, even though I am an adult, 23, so my doctor is very religious. My mom tends to select them this way. I need an x-ray for something unrelated, and there was a form to tick that I wasn't or couldn't be pregnant. The doctor took one look at me and ticked no. It was awkward, but I said I haven't had my period in 2 months. Not sure if it's an ovarian issue since I have that too, and she looked at me and said, "You know if you've been a bad girl and if you've made love. So tell me if you've been naughty." It was so unprofessional I was speechless. So now my mom knows I've made love recently and is very disappointed in me. It only gets worse. So, because of the constant urinary tract infections and the antibiotics not banishing it properly, I say that I would like to be tested for the STI. She comes and asks me right out in front of my mother how many sensual partners I've had. It is very awkward for me. Then she says if I haven't been promiscuous, we won't bother doing that test. I've only had one partner, but one can never be sure if the other person has the STI. I still have all symptoms of that STI, but she won't run the test? I feel so bad because not only has this woman revealed my sensually active status to my mother, she shamed me for it and used words like naughty and bad. I know having making love isn't common in my culture, but my V card was taken from me when I didn't want it to be, and since then I haven't been saving myself for marriage because it had already been stolen. I'm not a S, but even if I was, I don't think it's a medical practitioner's place to judge me. Faith has no place in medical care. To be blinded by it is negligent and can cause lives to be lost. I'm so upset and feel so violated, and my mom is super upset with me. All I wanted was to not feel pain all the time from constantly being ill, and now I'm branded as ass. My husband asked me for an open marriage because he wasn't attracted to me anymore. About 1 year ago, my husband, female 39 and male 48, told me that he wasn't sensually attracted to me anymore. I kind of understood that because when our second kid, male 4, was born, he hasn't made love with me. He said he loved me more than anything in the world and that the rest of the relationship was perfect, but he needed to make love or he would go crazy. I was taken aback, but I started asking him about the definition of open marriage and we discussed it over a few weeks. To be honest, I was feeling sensually deprived and the idea started to grow on me. I said yes and asked if there were any rules, and he said usually every couple had their own rules. So our rules is no bringing them home and use protection. My husband was very clear that he also wanted to know who the other person or persons is and when. That's when he said to plan our days. He was meeting new women within a week. He told me everything, showed me pictures and was gone most of the nights. Not gonna lie, I felt like shite, but I thought I needed to give it time. I was more careful, however, because I needed to know the people I made love with and have at least had some kind of feelings. I started to relax more and flirt back with guys. One of them is a client, Jay, male 36, at the bank I work for. Not my client, but he sees me often and he always been pleasant and extra chatty with me. Now I started flirting about a month ago. I finally decided that I was ready to start sleeping with others. I told Jay about my arrangement. He was disappointed at first, but then he said he was in. I went home to my husband and asked him if he was going to do anything that Friday, and he said no. I told him that it was good because I needed him to be with the children. I showed him Jay and told him I was meeting him Friday. He was silent. Friday came and my husband texted me that he was stuck at work and that he later was going to meet a girl so he couldn't watch the children. This continued. Every time I fix a date with Jay, he would do the same and leave me with the children. I don't mind spending time with my children, but I was getting annoyed. Anyway, last Monday I had no meetings at work after lunch, which often means that I don't need to stay in place. I texted Jay if he wanted to meet and he was at home. My children are in daycare. I went to his place and it was amazing. I have missed this so much, the feeling that I'm desired in someone's eyes and is filled with lust for me, my body. When I got home I told my husband and he was livid because I didn't tell him beforehand. I broke a rule. I told him that I didn't. He knew that I was seeing this guy and that I've been trying to make time. Anyway, he didn't speak to me the rest of the evening. He woke me up in the middle of the night with gentle kisses and touches and we made love 3 times. First time in almost 5 years. And we have made love every night since. Now he's saying that he is attracted to me again and that's why we need to close the marriage again, but I don't want to. I like having other options and we're not hurting anyone.
Today my wife met my girlfriend. I, 32 male, am a widow. My wife passed away from pancreatic cancer 5 years ago. She was forced to leave behind our 2 kids, R, 10 male, and H, 7 male. My wife was the absolute light of my life. We were high school sweethearts, went to the same college, and got married after graduation. We were inseparable. Every day I fell more in love with her. It was like my heart was living outside my body. When she passed, the amount of pain I was in was indescribable. I prayed to go to sleep and not wake up just so I could see her one last time. I contemplated meeting her, but every time I was ready, my kids would look at me. They had her face, her personality, her DNA. I couldn't leave them. They were all I had left of her. It took years before I was able to function normally again. I even quit my job and lived off of savings and her life insurance for about a year. I was half the dad I used to be and only a fraction of my former self. 2 years after her passing, I decided enough was enough and I kicked myself into gear. I found a job in a different city, closer to my parents. I packed my kids up, and I moved. Life was hard, but I kept chugging along and eventually I found some joy. A year after moving, I took a business trip to New York where I met my current girlfriend, Elle. While I acknowledged there was chemistry, I told her I was already married and she understood. However, a few months later I had to go back to New York where we met up again. I let my guard down for the first time around her. Before I knew it, she was putting in a transfer for my home branch and moving to my city. I fell in love with her and asked her out a year ago next month. My kids adore her and thus she reminded them she will never take their mom's place. They lovingly call her Mama Elle. Today was the anniversary of my wife's passing, an extremely hard day for all of us. This morning I walked into the living room to find Elle and my kids waiting for me. The kids were dressed in their church clothes with goofy smiles on their faces and bouquets in hand. Apparently, Elle came up with the idea of a picnic at my wife's grave, an idea that the boys loved as they enjoy going to see their mom. While I was sleeping they prepared food and flowers, then insisted on wearing their best clothes. I'll admit that I cried at the sight of them. I don't know how I got this lucky twice in a row. I wanted my wife to meet this amazing woman, so I asked Elle to come along and she did. The day that I dread every year turned out to be a humbling reminder of the reason why I stayed on this planet. To my lovely wife, you can never be replaced, but she is good to me and she takes care of our kids like you would. Thank you for sending her to me. Today I messed up by asking my high school crush to make love with me. I've always had a crush on this girl, but we graduated a few years ago and I never had the courage to ask her out. Fast forward to a week ago when I saw a post of hers on Facebook. I clicked on her profile just out of curiosity and saw that her relationship status was single. I'm single as well, but not looking for a relationship right now. So I sent her a message to ask how she was doing and we exchanged a few messages just talking about our lives and such. Then I asked her if she was really single and she said yeah, why? I basically said that I always found her attractive and would love to make love with her if she was interested. I wanted to be honest and blunt about my intentions. Other Redditors have reported using this approach successfully. I let her know it was no big deal if she wasn't interested. She said, "Why would you even ask that?" and blocked me. I've been thinking about it for the last week and I'm kicking myself that I said that. I really wish I could go back in time and redo that whole conversation. I know that I came off as creepy and it makes me cringe just to think about it.